All right, Joel Gausten here from joelgausten.com. I've been bouncing all over America the past couple of weeks with my recent videos. I'm happy for this time around to go over to London to welcome my most recent guests to the channel. It's my great pleasure to welcome Karen and Jamie from Palindrones. Hello, thank you so much for
Hi,
being here.
Hello.
thank you very much for having us.
Oh, absolutely. And I have to preface all of this by saying, um, as perhaps yeah, you may be aware, there's a lot of music these days, and um, whether you're Rolling Stone or what I do here with this channel or my website, we're all inundated with music requests and promos that come in. And to be brutally honest with you, in most cases, because of that volume, unless it's someone I already know, um, newer acts, or at least newer to me acts, rarely get listened to. So I want to first and foremost thank your intrepid media representative, William Zimmerman, for being so great and putting you in front of my eyes and ultimately in my ears, because I absolutely love what you're doing. And for the listener who's unfamiliar with palindromes, I'll put my journo hat on for a brief moment and say, musically speaking, I came up in the 80s, so Pet Shop Boys, Depeche Mode, New Order were big ones for me. In the 90s, particularly in the States, we had this electronic boom for a few years. I would say any fans of anything I've just mentioned would absolutely love what the two of you are doing. And I know currently you're on your second album, if I'm correct.
Third, actually.
Third, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
We'll definitely dive into that. But the current release is called Chapter Two, The Slender Blade. Um, but as you said, this is your third release, third full-length album. Um, so let me kind of start with where we are in the here and now, because the album title was prefaced by the word chapter, which is not something I encounter every day. And your previous album was chapter one. Um, so to put the record in context, conceptually speaking, this is, from what I understand, a tale that's been unfolding certainly up to this point with the previous album and this one. It's kind of a science fiction based tale, correct? About humanity finally making contact with extraterrestrial life. So let's dive off the board with that. What led to the formulation of taking uh, the two most current albums in that direction and use them to tell this story?
Yeah. In terms of the creation of the story, me and Karen are both really into sci-fi and sci-fi horror and fantasy and things like that, books and novels and films and TV shows. And I kind of there's two sides of it, and it's like politically as well. Both me and Karen are really into the idea of unity.
yeah,
Like,
working together,
yeah,
um,
a common goal.
accepting of people, of everybody, and yeah, so a lot of some of our stuff, it does link into our interest in what's going on in the world and how difficult things are as well. But and so I guess the sci-fi element is just not being scared of a bigger world and a bigger universe and accepting and exploring what's out there.
Yeah, because you come across stories like um 2001, where it's like this sort of the almost religious terror that humanity would experience when coming against like a you know not even a being, like a consciousness, um that it is so outside uh our framework, uh but then the idea that, and it's often framed as a bad thing. And so I kind of had this thought of like, I really, this, like the idea of collective consciousness is something that interests me in the different stories that I enjoy. But oftentimes that idea of collective consciousness is framed as like you know, bad, like the evil that we've got to fight against. But really, like collective consciousness seems to me like the most kind of crystallized idea of being one together as one. So it was like coming up with a story where the idea of us all coming together.
Hmm.
That's actually, yeah, it's a good. We meet an alien race that wants to bring us all together, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers or something. But it's actually
Hmm.
like it actually ends up being a positive thing that brings us together as one.
Mm.
Like not only one as the human race, but actually as like a universal, you know, a universal race. Like life everywhere is the same,
Hmm.
and the barriers that exist between us are actually just an illusion.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, certainly a message worthy of the times we're in, and I've always told people, when you're at a show and the lights are down, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're all in the same place for at least the duration of whatever performance you're seeing, we're all kind of on an even field. So it's very cool that that's the mindset you use to sort of bring this album to fruition. Going back more to the beginning of things, and unfortunately, I may have to commit a couple of journalistic cardinal sins in this conversation because I'm aiming to make this very much an introductory piece for people who are new to you. So I have to ask some cringeworthy questions. The first one being, how did the two of you come together for this project, and what were some of your primary influences going into it?
Well, we were both in punk bands, and so we were playing the punk circuit around mainly London, and our paths would cross quite often. And I think we would chat about music, send each other music, and it kind of went from there. And then lockdown hit.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, we couldn't meet up anymore, and um, we were sending each other. So Jamie basically had his home project, which was Palindrones at that point was his electronic music at home,
Yeah, it was literally a bedroom project where I was just,
instrumental.
yeah, sort of like noodle around. I didn't really release it. It was just something that I did like on the side.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so he sent me a track and sort of suggested I try and add some vocals to it. So I did that from my home, sent that to him, um, and then he put that into the track that became Sectio Aurea, and I loved what he did with it. And for me, I was like, this is exciting, this is different, this is new. Um, I think we can take this somewhere, and we just carried on working together at that from that point.
It was
Um,
kind of a way to like writing music together while we were kind of separated by the COVID lockdown. It was a way to stay
yeah,
connected, and then when lockdown like opened up, like things opened up again, it became the kind of musical thing that we wanted to do.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, now that things have opened up again, I've spoken with quite a few musicians who were sort of what I call the COVID babies, because circumstances enabled so many people to be creative because what other options were there?
Mhm.
Um, so a lot of newer music is out now because of the circumstances we all faced, a few years back. So, the last time I was in London was 2018, prior to everything changing. And I know I had a fantastic time playing out there and, spent a bit of time in Camden and, my father's from the UK initially. So I knew from my experience, things were a lot of fun and there seemed to be an appetite for a lot of live music. Now that we're in 2025 and hopefully past the wave that hit us. How are things currently in the London scene as far as opportunities for artists like yourself who are more of that ground floor DIY level to, make things happen and push things forward?
There is a lot happening in London still. It's still a very thriving scene. from us, we have a lot of experience from bands that we've been in the past, so we have connections there. But it's been in punk, so which has been interesting for us because we did start off being accepted by our punk buddies and playing on punk lineups, which we have a punk element to the way we perform and some of our music, but obviously sonically it's really different.
Mm.
So we started there, and then we kind of discovered, we've both been in the goth scene as well, so we've discovered more the electronic goth music scene for us, which we didn't play in before, and that's really thriving. Um, London is an interesting place because there's just so much going on. Um, so you never know how your night's going to go. I mean, our album launch we did recently in London was great. We had such a good turnout, and it was just there was so much love in the room.
Mm.
It was a really lovely night.
Yeah, looking out into the audience and seeing people smiling. Yeah, it was
Yeah, but I think also for us is actually as Londoners is discovering the rest of the UK for us has been our exciting journey. Um, because there's a lot of hunger for new music around the UK. Um, we go up north quite a lot, and there's a really great goth alternative scene happening around the UK up north. Though we just played in Dover, down right all the way down south, and again we had such a great reception and just lovely, lovely people. So um, for me, the part of the joy is exploring the UK bits that I've never seen before and meeting people and just chatting to people about music and life and everything. So yeah.
just finding that sort of connection with people um, through the music and feeling like experiencing how like the music that we're playing affects people.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
yeah, it's a really nice thing to kind of get out and meet people that way.
But it's also meeting other bands and
Yeah,
discovering other new music as well for me, is always exciting, and then making those connections and then planning gigs with them, and so that's the other side that I really enjoy.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's a great community of musicians in London and
All
in
around the
not
UK.
just London, like
Yeah,
England in general,
yeah.
that we're
mm.
kind of privileged to be a part of.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's very similar to what we're seeing in the States these days, particularly for this genre. There's some really interesting networks happening. A lot of fantastic independent releases, which has sort of retrained me to, when I go through my inbox, which is exploding, not necessarily going for, oh, here's the new Swans record, like, well, let's see
Mhm.
who else is kind of coming through, because it is an exciting time. It seems everybody is largely rebounded from some of the logistical challenges we all, faced in the last few years, which is very encouraging. But going back to the new album, which I must say I absolutely adore. I mean, it's one of the most perfect records I've heard for a long
Oh,
time.
well, thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
Truly, truly. Again, when William finally like was like, "You gonna listen to this?" I'm like, "Yes, oh, yeah." I put it on. I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay." Now I get why he was pushing me because he knows me enough to know it's like this is gonna be up your street. Um, there are a couple of songs in particular that I think really shine on the album that I would tell people who are new when they track down the album, listen to the whole thing certainly, but these are some key tracks. The first one being Abraxas, which is just a gorgeous number, um, and just works in so many great ways. So I was hoping you can tell me a bit about the genesis of that particular tune and the aims of that, that music in particular.
So I really like the idea of because it's a pretty brutal breakbeat, like breakcore kind of rhythm. I really like it's like opposing forces. This sort of this simple, like pretty melodies that come from the vocals and come from the synth lines on it but then juxtaposing that against like pretty hardcore breakbeats.
Right.
And it's that same kind of it's almost like two unknowns that are that are so opposing, and so it's like illustrating that same kind of like sense of like having a fear of the unknown, but combating that fear of the unknown because they are just such opposing forces. So like for me, that was kind of where it came from.
Yeah, agreed. And I think also lyrically, that's what I tried to pick up, that element of it, and it is about how you can't have the light without the dark, and the good without the bad. It's just like, yeah, the opposites of how life is formed of, of yeah, both sides, two sides.
So you can't live without the other, but
Yeah,
they cancel each other out and become something new.
Mm. Mm.
It's like the kind of the fusion of opposites.
Yeah.
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 I think that's the thing. Also, for me, when it comes to the vocal melodies, um, I like a melody that can weave in and out of what's going on with the beats and the instruments. And I think, yeah, it's one of my favorite ones to perform actually. Um,
Yeah, same.
yeah, I love singing that song, and I think and performing, I love to just really deliver to the audience as well, and I like to feel like we're all there together enjoying
Yeah.
it, which I think is also down to the concept of the album as well, comes across in our performance and how we like to perform. um yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. For me, the absolute highlight is the Dark Forest, which gives way to the Light Forest.
Hmm.
You mentioned sci-fi, and with that particular number, the Dark Forest, sort of the instrumental uh, part there. I'm thinking Blade Runner. That was my sort of initial thought, and not only Blade Runner, but certainly, I think it falls within that Angelo Badalamenti, David Lynch vibe.
Yeah.
So I really got hats off to you because it's a beautiful piece of music and really stands out on this record. And I think going into the second piece of that number really works beautifully as well. So you've got to walk me through a bit of that as well because I think that's really this to my ears at least the centerpiece of the new album.
Well, like the Dark Forest, it's kind of it's a concept that comes from a series of books. You know, the three body problem.
I don't.
Okay. Uh, the three body problem is yeah, there was a Netflix TV series as well, and it's this again. It's another one of these sci-fi stories about first contact. And the Dark Forest is a is kind of a concept where it's like there's a reason why we should all stay quiet, and the universe is this dark forest because everybody's got to stay quiet. Everybody is staying quiet because you don't know what is out there, and that's quite a lonely place. That makes the universe quite a lonely place because everybody's just terrified to like peek their head over the bush because what's going to see them. And in the context of the three body problem, it's like there's a reason why people are hiding, like um a there is a race that wants to destroy us kind of thing. But because that's not the angle that we're coming at, it's like the universe is a lonely place because everybody's terrified. But actually, if we were to just peek up over the bushes, we would get, and we do get, the light forest, which is kind of a celebration of um, making contact
Yeah.
with strangers.
Hmm.
That's what it means to me. That's how the two kind of pieces fit together.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Again, I think you're raising some interesting concepts with this. In one respect, it seems sort of simple and universal. Like, yeah, we're all supposed to kind of get on, that's the point. But how revolutionary is that in 2025, which, perhaps speaks to the reason why this message is relevant now. And there's certainly a cinematic quality to a lot of your music, and which is cool because you also have produced, a number of videos as well. And when I do post this video, I will include links for people to check that stuff out as well. So there is a very cool visual component to what you're doing. So having not had the luxury of seeing you live, how would you say what you're doing in the videos or even on the record translates to the live show? What can people expect from a live Palindrones performance?
I think it is quite similar because I know that a lot of the videos that we've done and that they're all DIY as well. We produce them ourselves. Um, I very much deliver to the camera the way I do on stage. Um, and it all is just natural and intuitive, and it is just trying to communicate and connect with the audience. When I'm live on stage, I love looking at everyone in the audience. I love trying to make eye contact with them and connect with them and literally sing to them.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's what we do try to get across in a lot of our videos, like the recent one, Animus. Um, yeah, that was very much like bringing everyone together and performing to them with them. We got our friends in the video with us to also be part of it. Um, and I think live, it's like it's the mixture of the atmospheric element we have that is slightly dreamy, but also energy is just uh, the love and the passion and the joy and the fun is something we try and get across in our performances as well.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's quite hypnotic. Um, and we do like we try to use visuals as well, like video projections as well. So sometimes we'll be projecting some of that kind of like hypnotic imagery that is in the videos as well.
Mhm.
But is for me the idea is almost to kind of create a reverie where people can fully immerse themselves, for half an hour or 45 minutes, however long it's like,
Yeah.
just to create a world that we're all part of. And if we're dancing, they're dancing. If they're dancing, we're dancing. It's kind of this like self-perpetuating engine of kind of euphoria.
Yeah, but
Um,
there's also it's highs and lows as well. It's yeah, I want people to have the full spectrum of emotions. If I can give that to them, that's what I'd love. Um, yeah,
Fantastic. And at the time of this recording, it's May 10th. I know you're playing in Camden tomorrow.
yeah,
yeah,
So you seem to keep things very, very active and forward moving with things. Um, and I know just by talking about the current album, there's a lot of creativity between the two of you, which, certainly begs the question, what do you think may come next? What do the next few months look like for the two of you as far as either live shows or perhaps even, new recordings, maybe chapter three, let's say.
well, yeah, we are constantly creative with that. This is part of why I think Palindrones has worked really well. So we're both really driven, and we're both we don't really like to sit still, and we're constantly creating. So it's like yeah, we're already writing a new track, which you started. I know. It's
well,
what?
that's weird. But
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, so the thing is, with Fearful Velocity was initially called With Fearful Velocity, but then it were like, oh shit, there's too many songs. So it became chapter one, uh, because it
it's
just
too
became,
much.
yeah,
Yeah, we had to
there's
split
too
it
many
into two.
songs, yeah.
Yeah,
And then chapter two, uh, we ended up, it was like, I'm never going to finish this. So actually, there's like two songs, there's two or maybe three songs that were going to be on chapter two that like I'm never going to finish this unless we kind of whittle it down a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's two or three songs that are finished songs, and then we've started writing more songs. So like yeah, like chapter three might happen sooner rather than later, but then chapter two didn't happen. It took 2 years for chapter two, but it took 2 years for chapter two because of the fact that it was growing. Like it's constant, like everything's constantly growing. So chapter three might then turn into chapter four. Yeah, but I feel like we've kind of told the story that we began. Um, so I think it might turn into a different. Uh,
Maybe,
but
yeah.
then maybe yeah, but then maybe
Or
not.
just it could be the next part of the journey. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
What possibilities exist at this point in time of bringing this to the States?
I, I, we've not been offered anything, but there's
But
nothing against.
yeah,
Yeah,
we've made some connections and we've met yeah, a lot of cool bands from around Europe and the States
yeah,
that they're lovely people and they're like you have to come over and play, and so that would be really cool. And it's definitely a goal of ours to play outside the UK for
Mm.
sure. Um, but yeah, we have to.
yeah. Like the logistics of that is not something that we've like looked into yet at this point. But we're not against
Yeah, it
anything
would be
really.
cool. It would be really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we want to
definitely.
bring the music to as many people as possible.
Yeah, and you should because it's really worthwhile music and it's exciting music and I think it'll go over quite well here. You know, we have our own bit of bubbling happening, you know, post COVID. There's a lot of things sort of regenerating, particularly with the genre you're working within. Uh,
Mm.
so we'll see. Maybe I could put my head together with some other heads and see what could happen for you guys out here. So, um, but
Okay.
in the meantime, it's a
Thank
great
you. That's wonderful.
yeah. There's some interesting stuff happening. You know, it's exciting for me because I'm seeing this regrowth of a lot of activity. And as I've said a few times already, a lot of newer acts or newer to me acts are really the ones who are standing more at the forefront of things, which I haven't experienced for a long time. So it's
Mm.
nice to see and hear some new faces coming up. So the lesson I've learned is I got to listen to the bands I don't know because that's where I may find the treasure in some of this stuff. But again, the album is called Chapter Two, The Slender Blade. I will include all relevant links for the viewer to check out the music and the videos, and whether or not they're in London or here in the States, I would encourage everyone to keep track of Palindrones. I know your progress is going to be fascinating based on what I've already heard. So I'm very excited for the future. But in terms of the present, again, my congratulations on the album and just wish you both the very best success and happiness with what you're doing.
Thank
Thank you.
you, thank you. Yeah, really appreciate it, and yeah, I'm really excited to see where our journey takes us.
That was mine. Thank you very
Fantastic.
much
Well,
for having us.
all the best to you both, and please come back sometime. When the next album rolls around, I'd love to hear it and love to hear from you. And perhaps at some point in the not too distant future, our paths will actually cross in person. So we'll see what happens
Okay.
there.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you. Bye
Joel.
bye.
Bye.